I'm gonna be holding this.
Cool.
All right. So you just at Dillon University with Mr. John Barnes, who is the instructor of.
You can call me program coordinator of visual arts. At some point, I taught the whole catalog. Over the years, been here 17 years.
17 years of art teaching.
Mm-hmm.
When do you start? When did you get first interested in art?
Well, I've been interested in art since I was about 4 years old. I've always found cartoons interesting and working really hard to get good likenesses of the characters. That's what initially brought me into it, primarily Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Because it was simple, a circle, two little lines. So I got that little bit of initial feedback that I had something. I was able to mimic things.
Nice.
And that's what started it for me.
Nice. And are you originally from New Orleans or?
I'm a native of Baton Rouge. I was born in Bogalusa, Louisiana. We moved to Baton Rouge when I was 4. And that's where I grew up and was raised in Baton Rouge.
Oh, okay. So what time were you in Baton Rouge?
I was in Baton Rouge until 1989.
Okay, so probably
No, until 1996.
96.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably ran into each other then too.
Many times,
Yeah.
probably. I wouldn't have remembered it though.
Me either.
I wouldn't remember none of that, man. Especially from 17 up. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those were some good times.
I was a wild young man.
Okay, where'd you go to art school at?
I went to Southern University in Baton Rouge, where I worked closely with Martin Payton.
Okay.
And then I went to Memphis College of Art in Memphis, Tennessee. And at the time, the dean was this guy named Alonzo Davis. So I got to benefit from his network.
Oh, okay.
He was a black man. Got to because that's very important to go to schools where you can identify with some of the people who have power at the institution, because they will extend their network to you.
Yeah.
And that's a major part of the building process in terms of building a career. These are people who you've already been proven to, versus having to go through the process, this getting to know me thing. They meet you at your point of expertise.
So that'll bring up an interesting conversation, because I had to sit in on classes. I didn't have, the funds had run out at that point, so I just started taking classes and didn't benefit from the whole system of higher education. And these days, I think it is rather expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But you would be one of the people to still recommend going to get a higher degree in art, or?
I would say it depends on the individual and what their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
Because since we have, of course I would recommend it, because the social capital that you build inside of a university program puts you ahead. So for example, let's put this in a bigger perspective, a bigger context. Let's say we're in Los Angeles and we're both artists. If I'm part of the UCLA system, I already know all the gallery people. Some of them have sat in on my critiques. So the bridge to a professional environment, exhibition setting that many people don't even know how to even approach, you've gotten a first-hand introduction, not through a secondary or tertiary, but through, hey, this is John Barnes.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Send me your stuff. Here's my card.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
It is.
Than showing up, not knowing anybody, and trying to organically place yourself.
Yeah, and we see that difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's very possible, but I would assume it would take more time. Now, the flip side of it is, when you get these introductions, you can ruin yourself just as quickly as you can make yourself. You know what I mean? If you're really not ready, then, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's only going to happen when you're ready.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Because, art school is expensive, but just like you said, it's much better to be introduced by someone who already knows the people. And then that way it breaks down that whole thing of getting to know people, which takes years, just
Yeah.
like you said.
But it varies though, man. I mean, because there are people who don't fool with anybody's school, whose work happens to get the attention of the right people through
Yeah.
serendipity,
Yeah.
or through a loose connection.
Mm-hmm.
So there are no rules to art. I mean, of course, if you go to certain schools, you're guaranteed to meet certain people. It doesn't mean those people are gonna like what you're doing or be sympathetic to your cause, but it just depends. The academic route is a route that has some level of guarantee. You're definitely gonna get published if you go to academic route. Doesn't mean anybody's gonna support the work, but it will be published. It will be discussed in certain environments.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So it just depends on what you're doing. Now a great deal of people want to go into higher education when they pursue an art education. It's very useful in that instance. If you want to engage a certain technology, I think it's a good setting to engage it in.
Okay.
And then they have many varied models of art college. Many varied models, and I would recommend, if you want to go the academic route, to find a school that sort of suits, your needs as an individual.
Mm-hmm. Are there certain schools you think that help you to get right into the big,
Absolutely,
blue chip galleries? And
I recommend Otis College of Art.
mm-hmm.
It's definitely one of those places.
Okay.
I recommend NYU. We all know the list. Micah, Pratt. And some lesser known schools who have well known faculty.
Mm-hmm.
You might be at an institution like Duke and have a professor like Rick Powell, who's a major writer in the arts, a major literary force in the arts, who helps validate careers, who writes the forwards for big retrospectives.
Yeah.
That's a good person to know.
Yeah.
Introduction from him, because on top of him being a historian, he's a critical voice.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have had the blue ribbon of a highly respected art critic. That's a lot of power to have behind you in terms of your acceptance in certain environments, in certain arenas. If you don't go to college route, you definitely have to go. I definitely would recommend that you make friends or invest in the media aspect of the arts. We were very lucky to have Art Voices in New Orleans for quite a few years, maybe 6 or 7 years, and working closely with Terrence Sanders. That was a great publication venue for many New Orleans artists. You know what I mean? In terms of having a national platform. So it depends. I'm of a generation, that was very much at the tail end of the civil rights movement. When I came of age, we were still in this modality of what we're getting from the system, and what my parents and many progressive Black people of that era, the late '60s, they really wanted their children to have education as a way to, as the keys to success in this country. Because as a nation, we chose education to be our deliverable versus liberation. So if you're my age, there's a good chance your parents really put a great deal of emphasis on the importance of education. I don't know if it's going to be that way in the future. I don't know if that type of heavy investment commitment is going to be useful or necessary. I'm talking like maybe 10 or 15 years ahead, because the rhythm is changing, the rules are changing, and the streams of knowledge and the way people approach getting the streams of knowledge, that's changing too.